Hey everyone, Andrew back again, and I'm finally here with the finale part 2 of my Q&A where I answer the remaining questions you guys left under my original Q&A video. Apologies this has taken so long to upload since part 1. I've had a super busy week with work and everything, and yeah, only just got around to sitting down to film the second part. So this is it. I will be answering the remaining questions in this video, and without further ado, let's get into it. So question number 1 is, well, for this part, is from Larissai17 or Travis, and he asked a couple of questions. The first question was, what is your favourite Lucio Fulci movie? Very easy, it's City of the Living Dead. Not only is this my favourite Fulci film, but it is my favourite Italian zombie film. Great atmosphere, really good gore effects, and some really memorable scenes within this one. And he also asked another question, and fantastic question by the way, Travis. He wanted to know if I was making a 10-song playlist for someone getting into Iron Maiden, what songs would be on it. So I gave it a bit of thought, and here are the 10. These are in no particular order. Red in the Black, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper, Run to the Hills, Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is an amazing closer, Prowler, Ides of March, which I don't care what anyone says, but I think that is a really awesome opener, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Aces High, and Murders in the Rue Morgue. So those are the 10 that I would pick for my 10-song playlist. I think it's a pretty good variety of their discography. So Travis, thanks a lot for the question. Questions from Tated Lord 87. So the first question he wanted to know is, have I watched any Asian horror films? I've watched a few. I'm not that knowledgeable on Asian horror. I don't really have anything against it. It's just that I've never really gotten into it, and it's definitely something that I probably should be exploring a bit more than I have been. But anyway, with that being said, here's a couple from my collection that I really enjoy. We have Dream Home, which is an Asian slasher film that I highly recommend. This is pretty unique and different for a slasher because, for starters, it has a female villain, which doesn't really happen too often within slasher films. And it's very character and story driven, and it's got some absolutely fantastic kills, very brutal, violent and gory. So yeah, if you're looking for a really good Asian slasher, definitely check out Dream Home. The next one's kind of more of a revenge film, but it's definitely got horror elements, and that is I Saw the Devil, one of the greatest revenge movies ever made in my opinion. It's amazing. And I'm not really too sure if you would consider this an official horror film, but it's certainly got a lot of killings in it. And that, of course, is the Japanese masterpiece Battle Royale. Absolutely love this movie. So there are a few that I've seen, and your second question was pretty good. What songs would you choose to best describe any horror franchise? 2 came to mind. Hellraiser from Ozzy Osbourne, obviously from the Hellraiser movies, but the one that really always stands out to me, and it's a great song, is He's Back, the Man Behind the Mask from Alice Cooper, obviously Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th. So yeah, Tainted Lord 87, thanks for your questions. The next question's from Monkey's Paw, and unfortunately I can't really answer this one. He asked, have I met any favourite horror movie actors or directors, and how was my experience? Was it good or was it bad? I can't answer that. I've never met any horror actor or director. We don't really have horror conventions over here in Australia, so I've never been to one. And yeah, I've never met anyone. So unfortunately I can't answer your question, but thanks for your question all the same. Next up, we have a couple of pretty big questions from Vinyl Victim or Brett. I really would have expected nothing less from a question from you, and a couple of really good ones. So the first thing you wanted to know is, how many horror movies do I have in my collection, and will I show some highlights? I did a quick count and I've got about 800, and that does not include multiple editions that I own for movies, which I own quite a few of, or my franchise collections. So with that being said, it's probably closer to about 900 with everything included, which is kind of crazy. It was a lot more than I was actually expecting, but I have been collecting for quite a while, since the early 2000s. And a few highlights. I didn't want to spend too long on this, obviously, for this video, but one of my highlights is definitely the Arrow Video Blu-ray of Day of the Dead, which is very, very rare now. And to go along with that, the Arrow Video Blu-ray of Dawn of the Dead. This really isn't rare, but it's definitely a standout because it's been a film that I've been wanting to get a Blu-ray release for many, many years now. And Vestron Video released The Gate. This is really underrated. It's one of my favourite 80s horror movies. And as I said, I've been waiting a very, very long time for this one to hit Blu-ray. A couple more rarer items now. We have My Bloody Valentine from Lionsgate release. This is extremely rare. It's been out of print for years now. And it's my favourite 80s standalone slasher. Another amazing movie and another pretty rare release, the Lionsgate release of The Monster Squad. And I chose this one just because it has John Carpenter's signature on it. So that's pretty cool. I've had this one for a while now. And a couple more, some box sets here. So we have the Friday the 13th Complete Collection Blu-ray Steel Tin set. This is very, very rare now, so I'm very happy that I picked this one up when it first came out. And lastly, of course, I had to showcase the Halloween Complete Deluxe Blu-ray box set from Scream Factory. This was a long time in the making, and they finally released the whole entire Halloween franchise on Blu-ray and did a really, really good job. And the next part to your question is, you wanted to know if I had any low-budget B-movie, over-the-top graphic movies, and I most certainly do. They're one of my favourite type of films, so I've pulled out a few from my collection just to quickly show you. So we have Society. I wouldn't really consider this a B movie, but it's certainly graphic, and it's pretty unique in that aspect. It's sort of body horror. Well, it is body horror. And yeah, the ending sequence is some of the most sort of graphic, out there stuff that I've ever seen, and the cover basically says it all, really. So definitely recommend checking out Society. Another one that I definitely wanted to mention, it's pretty cheesy, pretty low budget, that's Pieces. It's a slasher film, and it has a lot of pretty gory and pretty graphic kills in this one. It's really, really good. I love this. Next up is a more modern one, starring Rutger Hauer, Hobo with a Shotgun, one of the greatest movie titles ever created in my opinion. And this is really, really good. It's definitely low budget, B-movie style, kind of grindhouse style as well. And Rutger Hauer is the main character. He basically takes justice into his own hands. This is very over the top. It's very, very graphic, and definitely recommend it. The next one I think fits the bill perfectly, and especially considering that I just found out that you're really into New Zealand. Definitely check out Dead Alive, also known as Brain Dead. This is an early Peter Jackson movie, and this is one of the most goriest movies ever released, especially the ending sequences. So yeah, great movie. And last but certainly not least, if you could only check out one movie under this criteria that you mentioned, It's Got to Be Bad Taste, another Peter Jackson film. This was his very first movie actually, and it still remains my favourite Peter Jackson film. So this one is low budget B movie, over the top splatter goodness, and it's amazing. So there you go, Brett. That's my answers to your questions. So thanks a lot for the questions. They were really, really good. Next up, we have a question from Mike's Horror Corner, and he wanted to know if I had any plans to pick up any new horror items like Blu-rays, figures and masks. The main item that I'm really wanting to pick up, and I'm hoping to do so sometime next year, is a Cemetery Gates Warlock. That is very, very high on my list, so hopefully I manage to pick one up. Figure-wise, I'm still after the elusive Evolution of Evil Michael Myers set, but other than that, there's not really a lot of figures that I plan to pick up at the moment. Plus, it doesn't help that I am running out of room, so that's figure-wise. Blu-ray-wise, I recently picked up the It movie, the remake, and basically there's a few other releases that I'm wanting to pick up that I'm a bit behind on. I want to pick up Silent Night, Deadly Night. Also really want to pick up American Gothic and Slaughter High, and just a few other things. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at in terms of what I'm wanting to get horror item wise. So Mike, thanks for your question. Next up, we have a couple of questions from What Lurks on Channel X, also known as Chris. The first question is, he wanted to know if I could rank the Testament catalogue. I can, but I'm planning to do a separate video on that, so that probably should be out within the next month. I'm still working on it, and I don't want to rush through my ranking. I want to give a pretty proper and accurate ranking of where I'm at, so stay on the lookout for that. That will be a separate video, and I'll be showcasing my Testament collection as well. And the second question Chris wanted to know, and I can answer it within this video, is can I rank the Halloween franchise? So I'm going to go from my least favourite down to my favourite. So least favourite is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, Halloween Resurrection, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, Halloween 5, then we'd probably go Halloween 4, Halloween H2O, the Rob Zombies Halloween remake, Halloween 6 The Curse of Michael Myers, the producer's cut version, Halloween 2, and then of course the original Halloween. So yeah, that's pretty much my ranking for the Halloween franchise, and as I said, my Testament ranking will be in a separate video, so stay on the lookout for that. So Chris, thanks for your questions. Alright, moving on, a couple of questions from Jolly Roger. The first question is a pretty good one actually, and he wanted to know what was the first horror movie that I ever saw. Well, when I was 10 years old for my 10th birthday, I was allowed to rent a horror movie out for the first time, and it was Child's Play. I still have pretty vivid memories of that, and it still remains one of my favourite horror movies. So yeah, Child's Play was the first horror movie that I ever saw. And his second question is, what is the first record you bought? This is a little bit more tricky because I don't really remember, but it would definitely be one of the Beatles albums, and I'd probably say it was Please Please Me, because that was definitely one of the first vinyl records that I can remember purchasing. So thanks a lot for your questions. Next up, we have a couple of pretty cool questions from Dude1973 or Chris. The first question is, if I could live in one decade as a music fan, what decade would it be? And then if I could possibly narrow it down to a 5-year span. Obviously it would be the 80s. Is there really another better era in music? For me, no, there isn't. And for a 5-year span, I would probably go with 84 to 89, I'd say. There was a lot of great albums released over that time period, and then all the amazing thrash albums released in the late 80s. So yeah, that would be my 5-year span. And then he basically asks the same question again, but in terms of movies. and I'm going to go with the 80s once again. The 80s is basically my favourite decade for most things, really, and the 80s is just absolutely amazing for movies, not only just horror but movies in general. And my 5-year span for the movies from the 80s would be 82 to 87. Some of my favourite movies were released over that 5-year span, so yeah, great questions by the way, and that's my answers to them. So Chris, thanks for the questions. The next question is from Boogeyman Ben, and he asks a couple of questions actually. First of all, he wanted to know what is my favourite Friday the 13th film. This was kind of tricky. It really is a toss-up between three. Friday the 13th Part 6, Part 3 and Part 2. They all have really, really amazing elements to them. But really thinking about it, I'm probably going to have to say my favourite Friday the 13th film as of right now is probably Part 3. It's got a lot of really good kills, a lot of good characters, and it's definitely got my favourite portrayal of Jason Voorhees. So that's my answer for question 1. Then question 2, he wanted to know my thoughts on the Wolf Creek series and am I a fan of it? Yes, I am. I'm a massive fan of the movies as well, by the way, and I thought the series was really, really well done. It's kind of different. It's a different focus to the films, but I thought Season 1 was really, really good. Now, Season 2 has recently come out on Stan. I have not had a chance to watch that yet. I'm definitely going to start watching that next week. It looks amazing. I've already seen the trailer, and it kind of looks a little bit more similar to the movies than Season 1 was. But overall, I thought Season 1 was great. So yes, I am a fan of the Wolf Creek series. So Ben, thanks for your questions. Okay, and a couple of more questions to round off the Q&A. So the next couple of questions are from Farley's Retro Fan Cave, or Chris, and he wanted to know what is my favourite B-movie horror film. I've already talked about it within this video, but once again, it's definitely Bad Taste. This is an absolutely amazing film from Peter Jackson, and yeah, definitely my favourite B-movie. Next up, he also wanted to know for the second question, what is my favourite horror franchise? It's definitely the Halloween franchise. Friday the 13th kind of comes close, it's my second favourite, but yeah, it's definitely the Halloween franchise is my all-time favourite. So, Chris, thanks for the questions. And the last question, or the last questions, sorry, are from Husey1973, and thanks for chiming in on this. Thanks for asking a couple of questions. Me and you have been subbed to each other pretty much since the start, really, for several years now. So it's good that you're still watching my videos. So you wanted to know my favourite horror film of all time. It's the original John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween. It always has been. I don't think anything will ever push that out of #1 spot. It's just absolutely amazing, a horror masterpiece in my opinion. And the second question you wanted to know was my most treasured horror item. It's probably going to be my NAG 75K Myers mask. It's my Grail H1 mask, and it's basically the mask that I've been wanting ever since I got into Myers mask collecting many years ago. So yeah, that's definitely my most treasured horror item. So thanks a lot for the questions. Alrighty, so that does it. That wraps up my answers to the Q&A. I just want to thank everyone that's participated. You guys asked a lot of great questions and I really had fun answering them. So hopefully you've enjoyed these couple of videos, and I'll probably do another one of these in the future. So if you've missed out on asking me something, yeah, sometime next year I'll probably do another Q&A because I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. I hope everyone's enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.